Yo, what up? What up? What up? It's your boy Ralph Sneaks coming back. What's happening, world? Back with another one, another episode. Damn You Too Sportstalk. Make sure you head over to YouTube, subscribe to the content, tap the notification bell so you get notified when new content release. If you want to follow me on the sports page, IG is damn underscore YouTube underscore sports talk. You click the link in the bio and subscribe that way too. If you want to follow me personally, it's Ralph underscore sneaks on IG. Or if you want to follow me, damn you two sports talk over there on X. That's where I'm at. But another episode, man. I'm back with another one. Man, it's just want to get into some of these NFL quarterbacks. I was having a discussion with somebody yesterday. I ain't gonna call his name out, but we was just talking about the NFL season so far, and I know it's only been 3 games, but it's been some surprises, especially with the quarterbacks. If you look at the leaders right now, like I said, it's only 3 games in, and a lot can change between now and the end of a 17-game season when we only 3 games in. But I was bringing up the fact I was like, man, a lot of these quarterbacks are now starting to kind of turn it on. You know what I'm saying? Um, and one point I was bringing up was even when you draft these rookie quarterbacks, I was sitting there telling the guy, I was like, man, are these teams drafting these quarterbacks too high and expecting too much of them out the gate? You know, because a lot of times they can hurt a quarterback. You would think in hindsight that it would help a quarterback, but a lot of times that's additional pressure on a quarterback, especially a young quarterback that's drafted high in the first round. They are already expecting first round results out of you out the gate. And don't let it be a quarterback that a team trades up to get in the first round and takes them high. That's additional pressure, knowing that a team gave up assets to move up to draft you. Right? And then when you set these guys up with all these, these players around them, they are expecting you to definitely come out in your first year or two and light it up. And at the same token, you still got to go through a learning curve because the game in the NFL is not the same game that it was at the college level. Those windows that you had open in the college level ain't open in the NFL. The speed of the game is faster. You got veterans that's been in the league far longer than you've been in the league, so they know and they really doing their homework. They really zoning in on your weaknesses, on your tendencies, and they exploiting that. You got defensive coordinators scheming strictly against you now. They scheme in the college level, but what I'm saying is you got these defensive coordinators and these veteran players. The game is faster. These guys are getting a little smarter. And you playing with the best of the best because the guys you played against in college, all of them ain't gonna make it to the NFL. But once you get to the NFL, you're playing against the best of the ones that did make it. So I was sitting there telling them, I was like, okay, yeah, you look at Caleb Williams, he was the first overall pick, Chicago Bears. You look at the weapons they put around him. Now you can sit back and think like the way he's playing versus the way Justin Fields is playing in Pittsburgh. Do you want to make the argument that the Chicago Bears probably should have just kept Justin Fields and the same weapons that they put around Caleb Williams? Don't you think you could make an argument that they should have just kept Justin Fields and put them same weapons around him because Justin Fields is a little more experienced quarterback than Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is a rookie. Justin Fields is not. Now you're looking at the offensive line in Chicago. It ain't the best. So with them having the first pick, could you make an argument that they could have just traded back out of that first pick and maybe picked up, not trade too far back, but picked up an offensive lineman and still drafted Rome Odunze at 9? So they would have picked up an offensive lineman. They would have still drafted Rome Odunze, a wide receiver. They still would have brought in Keenan Allen. They still had DJ Moore there, who, by the way, DJ Moore don't seem to be too fond of playing with Caleb Williams. He seemed better with just Justin Fields than he do with Caleb Williams now. And like I said, it's only 3 games to the season. A lot can change between now and, game 17. But DJ Moore, the body language from him might get is he felt like that they should have kept Justin Fields and they should have just built around that and continued with that. And now coming out to start the season, it seemed like DJ Moore, is was had better chemistry and was better fit with Justin Fields than a Caleb Williams. So you could argue the fact that maybe the Chicago Bears could have stuck with Justin Fields. But if you the Chicago Bears, you may not have been trusting going into signing Justin Fields to that type of contract. So you want to reset with a rookie QB on a rookie contract. I get that. But at some point, if you want to win or put yourself in the best position to win, you got to not have such a high turnover rate at the quarterback position. Now I get it. They had a different head coach when Fields was there. I think Matt Nagy was the coach when Justin Fields was there. But he's not there no more. But you can make an argument that the Chicago Bears probably should have kept Justin Fields. And the same weapons they put around Caleb Williams, they probably should have just put that around Justin Fields. Now you look at Caleb Williams. I mean, he's thrown for 630 yards, 2 TDs, 4 picks. He completed 59% of his passes. The best game he had so far was this past Sunday at the Colts, where he threw for over 300 yards, 2 TDs, and 2 picks. But he also threw the ball 52 times too. You know, I think with Justin Fields, you had more of you were more dual threat QB that can get the job done with his legs as well. You know, so that's what I'm asking is like, what's more important to these NFL teams? Is it the quarterback or is it the coaching staff for these quarterbacks? Because we've seen quarterbacks who are labeled bust and labeled as career backups. They're now starting to kind of show you what they can do. You look at Sam Darnold when he came in with the Jets. I think it was 2018. He was a first round pick with the Jets. Todd Bowles was the head coach. He didn't do a damn thing with the Jets. Got traded to Carolina. Didn't do a damn thing in Carolina with Matt Rule. Left there and went to San Francisco, and he was a backup to Brock Purdy. Now he's in Minnesota, and I think he leads the NFL so far. Now, like I said, it's only 3 games. A lot can change between now and the 17-game season. We only 3 games in, but he's leading the NFL in touchdown passes right now as the Minnesota Vikings because they drafted J.J. McCarthy, and J.J. McCarthy had a season-ending injury, so he won't play this season. But Sam Darnold steps in, and I think that they were already leaning towards Sam Darnold before that season ending. I'm not sure, but it was a quarterback competition up there in Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell, and now the head coach of Minnesota. There was a quarterback competition between Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy ended up suffering a season-ending injury, and that's how Sam Darnold ultimately took over that QB1 spot. And now through 3 games, he's leading the NFL in touchdown passes. Now week 1, I get it. They played the Giants, and the defense did a bulk of the work. I get all that. But now looking at the situation where they played back-to-back solid opponents at home against San Francisco, in which they won that game. And I get it, no Christian McCaffrey for San Francisco. And Deebo Samuel, I think that's the game he got hurt in. So they beat San Francisco, and then they come back and beat a good Houston team. I think they beat the Houston team worse than they beat San Francisco. And I don't think Houston was banged up. I think they just played a good game against a good team in Houston at home. So Sam Darnold now leads the NFL in touchdown passes, if I'm not mistaken. I think he up to like 8 now. Through 3 games, like 8. So we all had labeled Sam Darnold a bust. But that's what I'm asking. Is the coaching staff more important for these teams, or is drafting the quarterback more important for these teams? Because like I said, Sam Darnold, he had Todd Bowles as the head coach. Now Todd Bowles is now down in Tampa, and he has Baker Mayfield. But Baker Mayfield is looking better in Tampa, in my opinion, because Dave Canales was there. Dave Canales is now the head coach in Carolina. Dave Canales was the same guy that was also worked with Geno Smith in Seattle when Geno Smith got there and had Geno Smith looking good out there in Seattle. Then he come down to Tampa. He has Baker Mayfield looking good. Now he came to Carolina, and Bryce Young is benched. That's the point I'm making. It's like what's because you can argue that Dave Canales would be more important to a team than just going out getting a high first round quarterback, drafting a quarterback high in the first round, rather. Because if you can take a guy like Dave Canales and he can take a quarterback, let's just say you take a quarterback in the 3rd round and you sit him the first year, and then you put him in the 2nd year with a guy like Dave Canales, he probably could be just as good as the guy you drafted high in the 1st round. So now you take your first round and your second round picks, and you just draft draft other pieces and plug other holes. Because you look at a guy like Bryce Young. Why in the hell, if you Carolina, would you draft Bryce Young first overall with Frank Reich as your fucking coach? If Frank Reich was such a quarterback guru, from what I heard, was one of the reasons why they brought in Frank Reich as the head coach, because he was supposedly good with quarter. Now that's what I heard. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I heard. Now if it's some bullshit, they threw it out there. I'm just telling you what I heard them say. They said that was one of the reasons why they brought in Frank Reich, because they knew they were going to get a drafted quarterback with the first overall pick. And they wanted Frank Reich to be there because Frank Reich was supposedly good with young QBs. Now, if that was the case, why the fuck didn't the Indianapolis Colts keep Frank Reich? Because they were going to draft a young quarterback too. They got Anthony Richardson 4th overall in that draft. And they knew they were going to get him a quarterback. There's no way in the hell you got the 4th overall pick and you just sit there and say, oh, well, the quarterback, he slid down us and we're going to draft him. Because Bryce went first in that draft. C.J. Stroud went second to Houston. And I think Arizona Cardinals had the 3rd pick in their draft, if I'm not mistaken. But Houston traded back up with Arizona, and that's how they got Will Anderson with 3rd pick. So they had back-to-back picks in that draft. Took C.J. Stroud 2nd, Will Anderson 3rd, and then the Indianapolis Colts had the 4th pick. So even if the Arizona Cardinals kept that 3rd pick and didn't trade with Houston, they still had Kyler Murray. They weren't going to get a quarterback. So the Indianapolis Colts knew they was going to get Anthony Richardson once they seen Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud off the board. So either way it go, they were going to draft a young quarterback with the 4th pick. So if Frank Reich was such a damn guru, why the hell the Indianapolis Colts didn't keep him for the young quarterback in which they was about to draft? That's what I'm saying. If what's more important to these teams, is it getting the quarterback right or getting the coaching staff right that's going to get the quarterback right? Eventually need to get the quarterback in right. Because a lot of these NFL teams, they take these quarterbacks high and they think these quarterbacks supposed to come out. It ain't but a few that come out the gate and live up to expectations out the gate. C.J. Stroud, he had a damn good rookie season. He lived up to the expectations out the gate. Meanwhile, Bryce Young, a guy who they traded all the way from the 9th to the 1st pick with Chicago Bears, did not live up to the hype, and he's benched. Now, some of these guys, you got to look at it and understand, like, you can look at a guy and tell, well, he got it. He just needs a little fine tuning and, give him a little time. He's going to get better because he's already good. You look at a guy like Jake McDaniel right now, who played ball at Arizona State and then transferred over to LSU. Heisman Trophy guy. He's shown more promise in these first 3 games of his rookie season than Bryce Young has shown in 18 games or 17 games. Because I think Bryce played 15 last year and then 2 this year and he benched. So I think he's like 17 games in or something like that. And I don't know why I keep calling him McDaniels, but Jaden Daniels in these first 3 games of his rookie season has shown way more promise than Bryce Young has in 17 games. And Jaden Daniels has a defensive-minded coach, and Dan Quinn. I don't want to hear nothing about no weapons. Because outside of Terry McLaurin, what other weapons do you know that they brought in Austin Eckler, and then Brian Robinson is there as the running back. But outside of that, who do you know is his wide receivers outside of Terry McLaurin? And even if you mention Terry McLaurin, what do you rank him as a wide receiver in the NFL today? Is he a top 10 receiver? Is he a top 15 receiver? Some guys just got an it factor in it, and some guys don't. You look at Jaden Daniels, how he played. You feel much more comfortable with him under center than you do Bryce Young. And I'm not saying that based off of the first 3 games we've seen. You just look at his. You can look in the preseason and see that he looked much more prepped and ready to come out there and start. And like I said, he has Dan Quinn as the head coach. Bryce had Frank Wright. Where would you rank the Washington Commanders offensive line versus where you ranked the Carolina Panthers offensive line last year? Now, sometimes these quarterbacks are hit, and you could go off of what they're doing and be like, okay, I see this guy, he has potential, and it's not going to take him long to tap into it. He just got to get his feet wet, and he ain't going to take long to get his feet wet because he makes good decisions, and he's giving what he's taking what the defense is giving. He's not trying to do too much. He's throwing the ball in a timely manner. You can tell some guys understand this coming into the league, and some guys get in there and they get cold feet, and they don't. And I think that's what happened with Bryce Young. He got cold feet. Even when Jaden Daniels was playing at LSU under Brian Kelly. You know, Brian Kelly is not really looked at as like a SEC style coach. You know, he came from Notre Dame, but you look at Brian Kelly's style of coaching, it kind of just doesn't align with the level of SEC play. I mean, because if you, it really don't. And I hate to get switched from the NFL to the cop, but I'm just using that to make my point. You know, when Bryce was at when Bryce was at Alabama, I mean, he had playmakers all over the place. So it was easy for him to look like that under Saban. So once he get to the NFL and it ain't like that, he get cold feet and don't know what to do. But you look at a guy like Jay McDaniels who played out there at Arizona State and transferred in the portal over to LSU. So he played with two different coaches. He played in two different styles. He played in two different conferences. And he was able to translate from what he was able to do at and we know him more from LSU and what he did there than what he did at Arizona State. But he was able to make the transition from Arizona State to LSU and then become ultimately became the second overall pick. So you can kind of understand he had, you know, the transition was better for him. You know, you know, second overall pick, and he just looked more comfortable in his first three games than Bryce did in 17, 18 games so far that Bryce appeared in, played in 17 games, I think it is. But then you look at a guy like Justin Fields. Look at how he looked under Matt Nagy in Chicago. He don't look like the same Justin Fields in Pittsburgh now with Mike Tomlin as the head coach. And now one could argue that maybe he's saving Mike Tomlin's job. Because Mike Tomlin was one of them guys I had kind of like up in the air as being on the hot seat. You know, I understand that Mike Tomlin, he ain't had a losing season since he's been coaching in Pittsburgh. But if you look at Pittsburgh hasn't been what Pittsburgh's supposed to be. You know, you look in the division, you have a team in the Cincinnati Bengals that's been to the Super Bowl more recently than the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion, they kind of like they need to transition more into being, and I've said this before, they need to transition more into this new era of football being more dynamic. It seems like they got one foot in the new era and still got one foot in the old era. They don't want to leave the old era of football. It's just their whole style. So, you know, you look at the situation since Big Ben has left, you know, it just ain't worked out with the quarterbacks. You know, Mason Rudolph didn't work. They drafted Kenny Pickett, that didn't work. You brought in two quarterbacks, and like you said, if you got two quarterbacks, you ain't got one. So now Justin Fields is playing damn good ball in Pittsburgh. He's in a different system. He has a few years under his belt at the NFL level. And now you're starting to see a guy in Justin Fields who's making plays with his arms and his legs. And they sitting at the top of the division right now, 3-0. And again, I'm gonna say it again. Yeah, I know it's only 3 games in, but they sitting up at the top of the division at 3-0. And you look at a team like Cincinnati, they've got Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. They 0-3. So yeah, when you look at these quarterbacks, man, a lot of times, uh, for example, Caleb Williams, I understand they got guys in there for him to succeed and be successful, but it's already pressure on you when you are the first overall pick as a quarterback. because they expect you to come in out the gate and give first overall pick performance out the gate. Now it's going to be additional pressure on top of being the first overall pick because they've already surrounded you with weapons to get the job done. DJ Moore's there. They drafted Rome Meduze, another young guy you can grow chemistry and develop with. And they got Keenan Allen, a good, solid veteran receiver when he's healthy and out there on the field. And they brought in DeAndre Swift. And you got a solid tight end in Cole Kmet. So with being drafted first overall, there's pressure. And now you come to a team that they went out and added weapons to you, which is additional pressure. That's sometimes when you're a rookie quarterback, and I hate to keep bringing his name up because I don't want to make it seem like I'm just running and stomping him down the ground, but I got to bring up Bryce Young. Bryce Young in his rookie season didn't have nothing near what Caleb Williams has in his rookie season. But when your team is not like what the Chicago Bears provided for Caleb Williams in your rookie year, what you need to do is show progression. Show that you have a ceiling. Show them that, okay, well, we don't have this and this and this, and this guy's still looking like this. He's only going to get better. But when you come out there and look a certain way, and I'm not saying it because a lot of times the talent got something to do with it, but a lot of times it's just cold feet. It's just cold feet. Like when Bryce come out there and, I've seen plenty of times where he should have let the ball go, but he pulled it back down, and then it resulted in a bad play, which it ended up being a sack, or he threw the timing of the play off, and now he's forcing the ball somewhere else. He's not going through his reads. See, if you're not doing stuff like that, it's hard to look at them and say, well, you got room for growth and development. You need a whole lot of stuff if you're not doing stuff like that. But when you come out there and you going through and you making the reads and you making the plays or whatever, and you get the ball out of time and you doing what you're supposed to do with the play call for, they can look at you and say, okay, well, this guy, he's executing the play. It's just that we don't have the playmakers. But when you don't execute the play, you don't know what the play going to be. You can't say whether it's the playmakers or not if you don't execute the play. But when you execute the play and you can say, okay, well, he did execute the play, it just didn't go as planned because we don't have the proper playmakers for that. So I can see that he's executing. We just need to get him the playmakers that make the execution work the way it should work. But when you ain't executing, it's hard for them to say that we need the players in here. You ain't executing. You don't know what the play could be if you execute it. And I think that's just a situation of what happened with Bryce. His execution wasn't there. He couldn't stand up tall in the pocket like he did at Alabama. He didn't have the playmakers on the outside like he had at Alabama. So he had to be an actual quarterback. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that they had the coaching staff set up for him to develop into an actual quarterback. I think they were expecting him to come in and do what he did at Alabama. But that's not Alabama. And it was a whole lot of pressure on it because they traded up to the number. First of all, it was pressure to be the number one pick. Second of all, it's pressure when a team trades up to draft with the number one pick. So that's the situation that was going on there. So again, I'm asking, it's like, what's more important to these teams? Is it the actual quarterback or is it the coaching staff that's going to get these guys, get the quarterback position right? Because I just named three guys. Sam Darnold, when he was with the Jets, he had Todd Bowles. He didn't do a damn thing. Went to Carolina under Matt Rule, didn't do a damn thing. Went to San Francisco as a backup behind Brock Purdy. Now he in Minnesota, leading the league so far through 3 weeks in touchdown passes. And he's beating two solid teams, two of these first 3 games in San Francisco and Houston. Then you got Baker Mayfield, who had Dave Canales last year. He didn't do a damn thing when he had Hugh Jackson. When he got drafted to Cleveland, had Hugh Jackson as the coach. He didn't do a damn thing there. And they had some weapons around him. Sometimes guys just feel comfortable going out and just getting with the right staff. Maybe Hugh Jackson and his staff wasn't right. But now he's down. He also came to Carolina. Didn't do a damn thing there. I think they ended up releasing him. And he went to finish the season out with the LA Rams. And after that season, he became a free agent, and then he got signed by Tampa. And now he's looking better. He's looking the best in Tampa that he's looked since he's been in the NFL. And Todd Bowles is the head coach there. But I'm not saying that Todd Bowles is getting all the credit, but you can give Todd Bowles some credit because he seems to feel comfortable with Todd Bowles this year after Dave Canal departed and took the head coaching job over there in Carolina. So he seems to still be playing solid ball, even without Dave Canals, and Todd Bowles is still the head coach there. So, Baker Mayfield may just have found a home. He may just have found teammates, and he may just have found the guy in Dave Canals that taught him some things that stuck with him and is transferring over until the second year in Tampa, now that Dave Canals is gone. So that was a good Dave Canals was good for Baker Mayfield, combined with the fact Baker Mayfield has some years under his belt in the NFL now. So you can argue that Dave Canals was a good fit, even though he was only with Dave Canals for a year. The things that he learned under Dave Canal was a good fit for him, combined with the few years the years he now has under his belt at the NFL level as a quarterback. So sometimes these guys, going from team to team, get with the right staff, combined with the years they now have under their belt in the NFL, is the best thing for them. Not everybody coming right out the gate is going to be clicking on all cylinders as a rookie. You look at Drake May. He was drafted third overall to the New England Patriots. He's backing up Jacoby Brissett. Now, I'm not sure how much of Drake May is going to get developed over there with Gerard Mayo as the head coach, being a defensive guy. I don't know. I don't know because, like I said, Jaden Daniels is in Washington, and he's his head coach is Dan Quinn, a defensive guy. Now you can't compare Jaden Daniels' style as a quarterback to Drake May's style as a quarterback. I think Jaden Daniels is more mobile than Drake May. You know, so you kind of got more. You got more of an offensive skill set with Jaden Daniels, in my opinion. Both guys being drafted to defensive mind teams with defensive minded head coaches. Now I think it's just a matter of time before the Washington Commanders defense gets better. I don't think Dan Quinn is the secondary over there ain't good, but I think it's just a matter of time with Dan Quinn being a defensive guy that they're gonna fix that issue on the defensive side of the ball. They're gonna get better because they know that they got a guy they can rely on in Jane Daniels, and he's showing through 3 games. And like I said, it's only 3 games, but he's showing a lot of things in 3 games that you necessarily don't have to really be. You really don't have to micromanage him that much. You really don't. Um, so now that opens up where we can focus somewhere another area of need. Like we can now focus more on the back end of that defense in the secondary. We don't have to dedicate so much. Where you still want to dedicate to your young quarterback, but what I'm saying is you don't have to hold his hand every step of the way. There's some things that he came into the NFL already knowing in advance in. So there's no need to really stay right there too long because he got that. Let's move forward on what he's got, but he don't quite got. But we can identify that now because he's doing some good things in his first three games. He's making good decisions. He doesn't have an interception, despite him not even having. You can't even name the receiving corps outside of Terry McLaurin. And a lot of people don't realize Zach Ertz over there. But Zach Ertz now ain't the same Zach Ertz that he was in Philly. They brought in Austin Eckler, a safety valve running back. They can catch the ball out the backfield. Brian Robinson. They not necessarily lighting it up on the ground rushing. They doing just enough. And Jay McDaniels is doing enough with his legs. But outside of that, and then they traded away one of the receivers this offseason over to the Eagles, Dotson. So they don't have that. So you can't even really name the receivers that they have out there. Or they just drafted Luke McCaffrey. So, through 3 games, Caleb Williams with DJ Moore, with Rome Meduze, And Keenan Allen's been banged up, has 4 picks and 2 TDs, complete 59% of his passes through 3 games. But Jay McDaniels with just Terry McLaurin has 644 yards, 2 TDs, and no picks, complete 80% of his passes. So he's a good decision maker. He's showing you that he's a good decision maker. You know, now they've lost. They the first game they went and lost to Tampa, but then they just won back-to-back games. They beat the New York Giants, and then they went on to Cincinnati on Monday night. I think he completed 91% of his passes Monday night against the Bengals. 254 yards passing, 2 TDs, and 91% completion. Now those were his first two, touchdowns of the season. But 91% completion as a rookie in a game, completing 91% of his passes. Now I don't know, is that just is that more of Jaden Daniels making the right reads and being cautious with the ball and doing what the play calls for it to do and not turning the ball over and hitting guys in stride, being accurate, pinpoint accurate with the ball? Or is that more so Cincinnati secondary is just ass? Because you come out here on Monday night and a rookie quarterback completes 91% of the passes on your secondary. I'm not sure how many times he was sacked, but completing 91% of his passes, that's crazy as a rookie. I don't give a damn what defense it is. It's an NFL defense. 91% completion is crazy. That's unheard of. So, you look at Jay Daniels, I mean, you wouldn't think that Dan Quinn would be the best fit for him as a head coach, but you look at Jay Daniels' style of play and, what you've seen from these first few games of the season from him, combined with what you've seen from him coming out of LSU, there's not so much holding his hand you got to do. There's not so much micromanaging him you got to do because he seemed to already grab some things coming into the NFL that you don't have to hold his hand and go through him with because he's already kind of got that. So let's move on to the next phase. But you look at Caleb Williams, and he had the best game of his season this past Sunday, throwing for 363 yards, 2 TDs, and 2 picks. I think this was the first game he's thrown for a touchdown pass too. But he got 4 picks total. So he's thrown for more picks than touchdowns so far this season. And like I said, I'm gonna keep saying this. We're only 3 games in. I'm just assessing what I've seen from the first 3 games. There's still 17 game season to go. We're only 3 in, so I'm just assessing based off the first 3 games that we see. 59% of his passes he completed. I get it was at Indy, but for a guy like Caleb Williams, you've seen a lot of throws that he made at USC. He made those throws across his body. He fit those throws into windows that were opening at the college level. He finding out they ain't open like that at the NFL level. I think Caleb Williams is more of the quarterback that once the play break down, he's continuing to look downfield to make a play with his arm rather than his leg. Jay McDaniel wants the play ain't even got to break down. If he see the opportunity to take what the defense is giving, he seems like that's what he's gonna do. Now he still look downfield to make plays with his arm, but if it's not there, he's not gonna continue to look down there and try to make it be there with his eyes. He's gonna take what the defense giving with his legs. But Caleb Williams seems to be the type of guy that's gonna still look down the field and try to force it in somewhere that's not gonna fit. He did a lot of that at USC and got away with it. But he's realizing and understanding he can't get away with it at this NFL level because the windows that were open in college are not open in the NFL. These guys are just not going to sit back and let you pass the ball like that. These guys are going to get after you. These guys are going to hit you. These guys are going to try to rattle you. You know, like I said, Drake May, third pick. He's backing up Jacoby Brissett in New England. Michael Penix, the eighth overall pick to Atlanta, backing up Kirk Cousins. J.J. McCarthy was the 10th pick to Minnesota. He ain't playing this season because he had a season-ending injury. Bo Nix, 12th pick. He's starting over there in Denver with Sean Payton as his head coach. And so far this season, he hasn't thrown a touchdown pass. 600 yards, no TDs and 4 picks, 63% completion. Now his best game probably was Sunday, a game in which they won at Tampa, 216 yards, even though he had more passing yards the previous week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But he had he didn't throw for a touchdown Sunday, and he didn't throw for an interception either. And I think he completed 69% of his passes for only 216 yards. But like I said, he passed for more against the Steelers, but he turned the ball over too. But he didn't turn it over here in on the road at Tampa. And they got the first win of the season. So, you're looking at these QBs. I think that this is my personal opinion. I think that it's more important for these teams to get the coaching staff right for these quarterbacks than it is to get these quarterbacks and throw them out there and you ain't getting the results that you're getting, because you're only gonna get guys fired when that happens. Guys are gonna get fired. You're gonna bring in another coach, which is gonna bring in his own guys, which is gonna put that quarterback under another system and another scheme that he's gonna have to learn. Now you don't really know which direction that they're gonna go in free agency, how they gonna which area they're gonna go in to build a team. That's just me. To me, if you get the right if you get the right staff, the right coaches on your staff, now I get it from, if you get the right guy, let me just say this, if you get the right guys on your staff coaching, you don't necessarily have to take a quarterback high in the first round. You can use your first round pick to plug another hole. And if you have the right system, if you have the right development and the right coaching staff, you can get a quarterback in the third round. And that quarterback in the third round, with the proper coaching staff in place, can probably give you the same or better results than taking that quarterback high in the first round that don't have the proper coaching staff in place. I mean, obviously, you took the guy in the first round uh, because his talent said he was a first round pick. But if you look at Daniel Jones, is Daniel Jones playing like a first round talent? Now I understand they got all kind of issues going on up there with the Giants, up there in MetLife with the Giants. I get all that, but does Daniel Jones, since he's been the starting quarterback for the New York Giants, does his quarterback play overall say that he was a first round pick? And then you don't have the coaching staff in play for him. If Daniel Jones didn't get drafted in the first round, what round do you think he would have went in? What round do you think he would have got drafted in? That's what I'm saying. Like, if you have the coaching staff in play that's good with young quarterbacks, you don't necessarily need to go and draft a quarterback in the first round. You can take a quarterback second, third round. If you have the system in play. Because you look at San Francisco with Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. What round was he taking in? What pick was he taking? The last damn pick. And you can name some first round quarterbacks that he's better than. Because he went to a place that had a system. that had an identity. That helped him out a whole lot. Now I'm not saying he was gonna look the same had he went to, I don't know, Tennessee. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is what he ended up going to the San Francisco 49ers, him being in that Kyle Shanahan system, they were going to get the same production out of any quarterback. They went to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo, who was drafted higher than Brock Purdy. So that's just a point in case of it don't matter who the quarterback is out there. When they have a Kyle Shanahan type of system and they plug you in there, 9 times out of 10, you're going to work. They traded up to get Trey Lance. All it took for him was to get injured and for Brock Purdy to step in, and they realized that Brock Purdy was going to be our guy moving forward. They got the hell off of Trey Lance. They said, the hell with this shit. We don't care because we traded up. We're going to go ahead and cut our losses now and eat that shit now. And let's go ahead and get that shit out the way so we can move forward with the guy we got right now in Brock Purdy. And Brock Purdy wasn't drafted nowhere near close to what Trey Lance was. Brock Purdy wasn't even drafted nowhere close than what Jimmy Garoppolo was. But didn't San Francisco go to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo? San Francisco has also been to a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy. So that's what I'm saying. You don't necessarily have to draft a quarterback first round. If you have the coaches, if you got the coaching staff in place that can develop these guys, or if you got a system in place that's quarterback friendly, the same production you would get out of a first or second round quarterback, you can get out of a third or fourth round quarterback if you got that in play. But a lot of times these teams take these quarterbacks high. They don't have the right coach for them. They just don't. If what I'm trying to understand is, if the quarterback is the most important position on the field, why the hell are you equipping the quarterback with the right staff to ensure success? You drafting these guys high, you just be like, okay, this is what we're doing. Go out and execute it, learn it. You're killing the confidence in these guys. You're setting the franchises back. You're getting coaches fired. You're getting a lot of finger pointing going on. The coach pointing at the OC pointing at the coach. Now you got a lot of people just pointing fingers at each other because I mean, it's not their fault. I mean, as an organization, you got to understand and know that if we're going to get a quarterback high, let's make sure we have the coaching staff that's properly equipped to ensure success with the most important position on the field, which is quarterback. But when you ain't got that, all kind of shit goes south. Fingers start getting pointed. Folks start getting fired. Confidence in not only the quarterback, but the team go down because a lot of these people, they don't want to admit and say when they fucked up. What they do is they go out there and they keep rolling with the guy that's not doing what they thought they should do because they trying to find some justifiable reason, just like the New York Giants. Why the hell ain't the New York Giants rolled off of Daniel Jones yet? Why haven't they turned to a guy that can give them some kind of spark? But yet and still, Daniel Jones, $40 million a year, getting drafted where he got drafted. The New York Giants are going to continue to roll with him to find some type of justifiable reason why. They hoping that he give them some type of spark so they can say, I told you so. But that ain't happened yet. They still rolling with this guy because of what they drafted him and how much they paying him. Just cut your ties and say, look, we fucked up. It didn't work out like we thought. We got to move on. We can't stick with this guy and continue to go down here and not only bring him down, but bring the organization and the rest of the team down. Instead of just taking accountability and saying we fucked up, maybe we shouldn't have drafted him this high. And if we did draft him this high and recognize that he ain't the guy, let's go ahead and move off of him and get a guy in here that can get his team a spark, to get this team back the way it need to be. Because you continue to roll with the guy just so you can say, just to try to cover up your fuck up. You fucked up. Just take accountability on that. You fucked up. You didn't have anybody. Now they did make the playoffs. I think that Brian DeBall first year there, I think they made the playoffs. But then one can say that was a fluke because since then they ain't done a damn thing. They've been going backwards since then. So yeah, he came in his first year and he had a fluke season, which I think he made the playoffs. But then last year nothing. This year so far nothing. Now last year they had a lot of fundamental errors. They did a lot of they lost some games down the stretch where it was a penalty or a turnover or some fundamental that they did that cost them the game. And I think they lost like 4 games like that or something like that, 4 or 5 games or something like that. In which it was a close game and they could have or should have won the game, which they probably would have been in the playoffs. But that's just like I'm saying, it's going backwards. You know, you go to making the playoffs, so you can't even do fundamental shit right. That's costing you games. You're going backwards at that point. That's not what we want to, as an organization. That's not what hell. That ain't what I'm trying to do. You know, obviously some of them teams trying to do it because they still doing it, but that ain't something that I would be interested in doing. Um, but like I said, man, a lot of these quarterbacks, they don't have a lot of these organizations don't put the proper staff in place for these guys. You know, you look at CJ Stroud, who lit up the damn NFL last year. You know what I mean? CJ Stroud, who had over 4,100 yards last year in 15 games, 23 TDs, 5 picks, and completed 64% of his passes. He lit it up as a rookie. And he had a defensive coach in D'Amico Ryans. So you can look at some guys and say, well, yeah, they got it. And they're saying a lot from a guy that come from Ohio State because we all know a lot of Ohio State QBs don't really pan out to be what they should be in the NFL. But he came from Ohio State and he panned out and he had a rookie head coach, a rookie defensive head coach in D'Amico Ryans. But they saw that this guy, CJ Stroud, had the tools, had the mechanics, and there was a lot of things that he came into this league already knowing. And they didn't have to really hold his hand through a lot of that stuff because he already knew that. They didn't have to micromanage this guy because he already knew a lot of those things coming into this league. So they were able to go and get a head coach in D'Amico Ryans, rookie head coach. He can grow with this team. You know, now you look at the weapons that they got or had in Houston, or when CJ Stroud got there, a lot of people didn't know Nico Collins. A lot of people didn't know Tank Dell. You know, hell, a lot of people didn't even know Dalton Schultz left Dallas and went over to Houston. After Dalton Schultz left Dallas, a lot of people didn't know he ended up in Houston. A lot of people don't even know who the damn running back was. It's now that you know who Nico Collins is. It's now that you know Tank Dell. And they just added Stephon Diggs this offseason. It's now that you probably know Dalton Schultz. Then they added Joe Mixon, the running back that came from Cincinnati. See, a lot of those things you can do when you have a quarterback, and that's part of the organization in your scouting department. You got to understand the strengths and weaknesses of these guys. You got to understand what these guys already coming into the league knowing and doing at a high level. So you don't have to actually focus in that area because they're already doing that at a high level. You don't have to micromanage and walk and hold them by the hand in that area because they coming into the league already with a high level. Now, CJ Stroud already was coming into the league with a high level of read defenses. You know, he threw 23 TDs last year. He only had 5 picks. Now, there was some games where he wasn't explosive in the games, and he didn't probably get that until probably midway through the season at some point. But even the games that he wasn't explosive in, those games he still wasn't turning the ball over. He still was making the right read. You know, he still had a few rookie mistakes he made, but it's not like those were mistakes that he continued to make. He made a mistake, he learned from it, he got better, and as a result, look at the stats in 15 games he had. He was the second overall pick. As a rookie in 15 games, had over 4,100 yards, 23 TDs, 5 picks, and completed 64% of his passes. That's a damn good year for a rookie, and an outstanding year for a rookie. Yeah, that's an outstanding year for a player at the quarterback position that's not a rookie. You know, so you got to identify the strengths and weaknesses of these dudes. That comes from your scouting department. You got to assess your staff. A lot of these guys, they come in and they don't have a lot of these recycled coaches. They're not up to what the NFL is and what these players are coming in. They want the player to come in and not do what got them to that point and do what the coaching staff is there wanting them to do. But you can't wait till a guy get all the way to the professional level and try to change his game. You got to go with what got this guy. It's a reason you want to draft this guy high in the first round, or a reason you did draft this guy high in the first round. You didn't draft this guy high in the first round to change his game to what you want it to be. You're going to have to adapt to what his game is and what the NFL is. You're going to have to put guys on your staff in place for that. You can't bring a guy into the way you can, but it wouldn't make sense for you to bring a guy, especially if you draft him high, into the league and try to change his game to fit your coaching style. It would be much better if you change your coaching style to fit his game. Now I get it. Some guys come into the league and they got it, and some guys come into the league and they don't. You got to hold their hand and you got to micromanage them through this thing. Guys like that, you got to give them a short leash. If they don't get it, then they're not the guy for you. Go ahead and cut your ties. It's an L. Take accountability. Move off of it. Get what you can get. So the sooner you move off of it, you can start the process of replacing them and moving forward with the team. But when you do things like the New York Giants, pay Daniel Jones and try to find a justifiable reason why you should stick with him, and it ain't working out, you just only going backwards at this point. Instead of just taking accountability and taking the L, taking the loss, the sooner you do that, the sooner you can go ahead and move forward what you need to move forward with and get the team going back in the right direction. But that ain't what you're doing. But then you look at a guy like Anthony Richardson, he was the fourth pick. I understand he only played like, 4 or 5 games last year. He had a season-ending injury. He only threw for 577 yards. So if you average that out, that's about 120-something yards a game. 130-something yards a game, something like that. 3 TDs, 1 pick, 60% completion. Now, Anthony Richardson, in my opinion, he can make the tough throws. It's just the easy ones he can't make. Then I don't think he played a ton of games at Florida, coming out of college at Florida. So yeah, I mean, some guys are gonna get better the more they play, but some guys you look at it and say, look, it don't matter how much they play, they just making the same mistakes over and over and over. And if we want this guy to be anything close to what we drafted him to be, we're gonna have to get some guys or a guy on this staff that can get this guy right. And if he can't get this guy right, then he ain't the guy. We need to start doing this shit ASAP. That's why I wasn't mad at the move Carolina made with benching Bryce. There's no need to continue down this road week 9, 10, 11 when you ain't won but 2 fucking games and you pretty much out of playoff contention, and now you want to turn to a veteran quarterback. Why the hell you couldn't do that early in the season? That's why I'm not mad that they did it 2 games into the season, because you still have plenty of time to turn this thing around. But if you wait to 10, 11 weeks later to try to turn this shit around, you ain't going to turn it around. You gotta put your foot down and get on top of this shit. You can't just allow it. They already seen a year of what Bryce did. They got a 2-game sample size of what he did this year. They brought the same guy in that helped Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield. And Geno Smith, both Geno and Baker Mayfield, in these previous 2 seasons have looked the best they've ever looked since they've been in the NFL. And they brought the guy in that was behind the scenes responsible for it. They brought him in as the head coach. And in 2 games, Bryce looked the exact same as he did last year. So they bench the guy, bring in a veteran quarterback, and they go off and put up more points in this past week at the Oakland Raiders. I don't know why I keep saying Oakland, but the Las Vegas Raiders, they put up more points in that game than they combined in their first 2 games. They moved the ball on offense. The body language of these guys was completely different on both sides of the ball, the offense and the defense. The run game actually got going. Just the whole energy and morale of the team seemed to be higher and more positive. The body language was much better, much, much better. Now you lost Adam Thielen to a hamstring injury. But still, they got Cincinnati. They got Cincinnati this week coming up. But still, they saw that these first 2 games, Bryce came out with a different guy looking the same way he did last year, in which he only won 2 games. So they said, no, we can't have another season of this. Let's get this guy out right now, sit him down, let him watch a vet, let him let him sit behind a vet and watch, because some of the same things he coming out starting this season doing, he was doing last year, that only resulted us in 2 wins. We don't want to be that same 2-win team again this year. So let's bench this guy after 2 games while we still got plenty of time to turn this thing around, instead of waiting to the end of the season when they have absolutely no chance of turning it around and they just playing games because that's what the NFL schedule say they got to do. So you sitting at 1-2 now. I'm not saying they about to go off and be a Super Bowl contender, but now you can see what the team is capable of. Now that they went to a veteran guy, and like I said on the previous episode, this might be what Carolina's new formula needs to be. They probably don't need to draft quarterbacks high no more. They probably need to either one, go with a veteran quarterback, or two, if you're keeping Dave Canals for the long run, for the future, you don't need to draft a quarterback high in the first round, because you have a guy that can develop the quarterback, and he's showing you that with Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith he can do. Those 2 guys in these previous 2 years have looked the best they've looked since they've been in the NFL under this guy Dave Canals. So you don't necessarily have to go and get a first round quarterback. You can probably get a quarterback in the 3rd round and get the same results that a team is getting out of a first round quarterback, because you have a guy that's good with quarterbacks now. So you can use your 1st and 2nd round picks to go other places, plug other holes. Offensive line, wide receiver, D-line, secondary. Because I always say that a veteran quarterback can teach a younger wide receiver than a veteran wide receiver can teach a younger quarterback. Andy Dalton can teach Xavier Legette. Andy Dalton, a veteran quarterback, can teach a rookie receiver, Xavier Legette, better than a veteran wide receiver in Devontae Adams teaching a young quarterback in Aiden O'Connell. That's what I'm saying. So now that you got this guy there, that might just need to be that just might need to be their identity and how they operate dealing with quarterback position. Don't draft one high, get 1 3rd round or so, and you probably can get the same, if not better, results out of that quarterback than drafting a quarterback in the 1st round and you don't have a good guy on the staff they can work with. That's all I'm saying. But man, let me get out of here. I really didn't mean to be on here that long, but I just wanted to give y'all, since it came to it just came to me yesterday as I was talking to this guy. I was talking about the NFL so far and the quarterbacks, and it really was none that was really lights out. I'm not even counting the rookies. I was just, the ones that you would look up at the top and see they playing well. Like I said, Justin Fields, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold. And I'm gonna continue to say this: we're only 3 weeks in, and next week we'll be 4 weeks in. But that's just what came to mind when we was talking about these quarterbacks, and especially with Darnold, Baker Mayfield, and Justin Fields, how they're now playing for different teams under different coaches and different staffs. And then you look at the way some of these rookies and some of these 2nd-year quarterbacks are looking their first year or their first 2 years in the league, and it just got me to thinking, like, wow. What's more important to these teams? Is it the actual quarterback, or is it the actual coaching staff for these QBs? Because a lot of them draft these quarterbacks and expect these quarterbacks right out the gate to put the team on their back and carry them to wins and turn the franchise around. But if you don't have any proper coaching, you're just going to have a high turnover rate at the quarterback position. You're just going to be having a lot of finger pointing and a lot of blame going around, and people going to be getting fired, losing their jobs. And nobody really knows what to do with the quarterback, which is the most important position on the field. So I'm just thinking, why the hell would you have a staff assembled and equipped for the most important position on the field if that's what you're trying to do long term as a franchise with a franchise quarterback? But yeah, man, let me get out of here. Make sure y'all head over to YouTube, subscribe to the content at Damn You Too Sportstalk. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified when new content drop. Head over to Instagram. Damn_U2_sportstalk. You can click the link in the bio and subscribe that way. If you want to follow me on Instagram, personally, it's Ralph_Sneaks, or head over to X, it's Damn You Too Sportstalk. Until the next episode, man, peace. Y'all be safe.